the website. All right. So today we talk about how to trade the news. You guys have access to the chat box. You guys have access to unmute yourselves, but please do not unmute yourself while I'm explaining. After this entire session, if you have any doubts, you can ask. सबसे पहले आई एम गोइंग टू वैसे तो आई डोंट रियली ट्रेड न्यूज़ बट वेन एवर आई हैव टू आई लाइक टू सी क्या चल रहा है. सो दिस इज NFP, राइट, विच इज टुमारो 4:30 PM दुबई टाइम, 6 PM इंडिया टाइम. सबसे पहले आई एम गोना गो टू economic calendar, investing.com. Then I am going to go to tomorrow. tomorrow में है NFP का है भाई. There we go. NFP. So when you click on this news तो आपको दिखता है एक चार्ट जिस पे आपको क्लिक करना है 1 year. So इससे क्या होता है कि here you see a particular data. You can convert this into a line chart also. So first of all, clearly you can see that the NFP data is in a downtrend, right? Abhi, and even and this is basically like normal chart analysis, normal technical analysis, right? So this was a support. Now support is broken. Support turned into resistance. So there's a very high chance that NFP will fall tomorrow. NFP will go down. So one actual 142K. So now if you see the forecast has also dropped down. So isko bhi, all this past data also you can look at it from a trend perspective. So, like for example, let's say यहाँ पे from here to here I can see an uptrend. So 150K, 200K, 216, 353, 275, 303K, right? So this is a clear uptrend, right? From here 175, 272, 206, 114, 142. So here you can see all of that. So this is a clear trend shift on the downside. If you go to the 2 year chart, of course, again downtrend. If you go to the 5 year chart, ये कोविड की वजह से इट्स अ बिट क्रेजी. बढ़िया. So this is very obvious that NFP trend is downside. Okay, so that leaves us, and on top of that, the NFP data is has retraced in the last month. So there's a very high chance कि NFP data will go down this time. Now what we have to do is first of all check what happened in the last 4 to 5 NFP release, right? 6th September. We're gonna go 6th of September. This was the NFP data release. So I am going to इसको हम लोग कर देंगे यहाँ पे. 4:30 को NFP आया था, right? So this is the NFP data release. So I remember this very very clearly. I remember this very very clearly. I also predicted this कि there is this particular demand zone. यहाँ पे प्राइस टैप इन करके ऊपर जाएगा. This is what my prediction was, and precisely that is what happened. If you see, price took liquidity and then went up. So NFP na हमेशा and this is what you will understand when you study news. So like CPI is kind of a news जो immediately move देता है. Like for example, let's say अब news आई, immediate down candle रहेगा, immediate up candle रहेगा. It will be a very sudden move. But NFP is a bigger move. So NFP needs liquidity. So NFP will do what? NFP will first take liquidity into the most important demand or supply and then give the move. And 90% of the time after NFP release, price again reverses completely and gives a counter move again opposite wise. So this is again last NFP. So uske baad what we will do is we will see August 2nd. One more thing to note is that the NFP came lower than expected, right? So forecast was 164. The original actual was 142K. So we'll go back to 2nd of August. 2nd of August, I'm going to cut down to NFP candle. So this was again, so 1 minute नहीं आएगा because but मेरे पास तो यार सबसे महंगा प्लान है. Why is it not coming? Anyways, so again यहाँ पे what you can see, here you can see that price has taken out this particular liquidity, right? High liquidity निकल गया है, price has come down. So there's a very high chance, according to what I mentioned, there's a very high chance that the news will go down. But this is NFP. So NFP might need more liquidity. So this is a supply zone that could be potentially tapped. And then price might go down. So price pierced through that supply and then it came down. But again, if you would have taken this particular trade from news perspective, so you might not have made a lot of money. But after that, you can see what happened. Price took out the liquidity and then later came down. And this NFP release was again lower than expected. So okay, now we're starting to notice a pattern that September NFP was lower than expected. Price went up and then went down, right? So news impact went up and then came down. So this is a pattern that we're trying to notice, starting to notice. We'll go to July 5th and go to 5th of July. Look at this. We've got a demand level over here. Now this one was higher than expected, right? So the forecast was 191, the actual was 206. So the move happened opposite. The price went up and then it continued going higher and then it dropped, I think, the next day, right? The next Monday, basically. The move got neutralized. So pretty much again, price was going up, went down, took out liquidity, and then went higher. So the best way, according to me, to trade an NFP is basically to draw important zones where price can potentially test and place your limit orders. So like, for example, what I would like to do is I'm going to go to the 15-minute time frame. Here you can clearly see that this is a zone and then this is a zone. So I will place some limit orders here, some limit orders here. And of course, there's a very low chance that price will actually take out these two levels. One more thing, what you can do is you can measure things in terms of percentage. That when gold, again, this is a homework you have to do. I'm not going to do it all over again. But whenever gold NFP news releases, how big of a liquidity grab does it do? So this one is 0.77% from the release, right? You can test the next one. You can test the next one, and you'll also get a good estimate in terms of statistical data. Ki how much of that happens? June 7th. Now June 7th was also higher than expected. In fact, this was much higher than expected. We'll go to June 7th. June 7th ही था ना, हाँ June 7th, because this doesn't look like an NFP release. Yes, this was the release, June 7th. Same pattern here. Price is going down. इसमें वाला इसमें that particular principle applied where price was already down, already going down. It went up before the news indicating that there's a potential drop that could come. And then the news got released at 4:30, which is this. And then price just dumped नीचे. उसके बाद, in fact, you see, it basically took liquidity from this demand level. So if you would have actually, let's say you had placed your limit orders, you would have made some money at least. That's like what? 130 pips. But again, more than expected, price gave a very weird reaction. उसके बाद we'll go to May 3rd, 2024. again lower than expected. So lower than expected may again we have observed this in the past that whenever the reaction is lower than expected, price goes up and then comes down. So this can also be a very important lesson for you in terms of what you, let's say you're somebody who doesn't want to take a risk at NFP. You don't want to go long or short before the news release. What you can do is you can actually mark out major zones in terms of supply and demand and trade opposite of that particular zone after the NFP move. Like for example, I have marked out this particular resistance, right? So now I can place a sell limit order over here. So in this particular case, what I would have done is I would have placed a buy limit order in this zone and sell limit order in this zone, depending on whatever happens. Even if, let's say I entered here and exited here, that's still a very good amount of money. अगर if I hold on full तो तब तब तो फिर तो लैम्बो आ जाएगी, but you get